I have pretty much education as a person can get. So I went to undergrad at Wellesley College, and I ended up majoring in biochemistry, mostly because I couldn't figure out what to major in, and I was really struggling with this. And I called my dad. I remember saying, "I don't know what to major in. Everything's so interesting, and I have to decide now. I'm 18. How do I know what I want to do for the rest of my life? It's a really daunting choice you have to make." And so the first thing he did, which I think is a really important learning lesson, what he always does is he sort of takes me back from the cliff. So first of all, no decision you're making today is a decision for the rest of your life. That's just never, never the case. You're making a decision that will impact something, but most things you can turn back, you can change course, and it's not really such a big deal. So after I got taken back from the cliff, the question was, okay, well, what do you enjoy? And if you can't answer that, you enjoy multiple things, then you go to the next question, which is, well, what are you good at? What classes come easily to you? And this is probably a function of being at a liberal arts college, but the sciences came easy to me. And so I didn't have something that I particularly loved, and so I picked something that came easier, that maybe I was decent at. When I got to my senior year, that sort of not knowing was still there, and I was going to go home and live at home while I tried to figure out what I was going to do, much to the dismay of my parents, who just spent a lot of money for me to go to college to figure out what to do. And I had a specific interaction with a professor that did change the course of events for me. And this was a biochemistry professor. She was the chair of the department, and she called me into her office, and it was in the winter time, and she said, "What are you going to do when you graduate?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I'm actually going to go live at home and try to figure it out." She kind of rolled her eyes and she said, "Okay, well, as an alternate to living at home, might I suggest, have you ever considered going to graduate school?" And I said, "In what?" And she said, "In biochemistry, your major." And I said, "Well, no, I haven't considered that." And she said, "Okay, well, I think you should consider it. Here's some brochures for various schools around the country that you could look at." And so I looked at them. It was literally 2 weeks from all the deadlines for all of the applications. So I took this standardized test I had to take. I filled in all these applications. Going to a small school was really helpful for me because I could walk into a professor's office, ask them for a recommendation letter. They knew exactly who I was. And I applied, and I ended up getting into Johns Hopkins, and that's where I did my PhD in biochemistry and molecular biology. And that was changing for me because in school and a lot of science classes that you learn, there's a huge amount of memorization that's involved. And I don't love memorizing things, and I never really understood the creative component of science until I was in my 20s and in graduate school. And when I went to graduate school and I saw all these amazing people being creative every day, coming out with new solutions, seeing new things that no one's ever thought of before and trying to figure out how they worked, that's when I got really excited about science. And I would say prior to that, I was most excited about English. And I did science because that's what came easy to me. But here I really understood the passion and the creativity that goes into it. And that's when I sort of made a decision to go into healthcare. And so that formal education and being surrounded by really intelligent people who all cared, and I would say Johns Hopkins is also a very small school, and I was in a very small program, and I had professors that really cared about the work that I was doing. That support network and those people who were enthusiastic about their work, really, that formal education was so key and so important to me figuring out where it was that I wanted to go and how I wanted to spend my days.